Chapter 2, Mountain View House. The Dodges saw a grand opportunity in the traveler's advice and added a 16-room extension, complete with a full veranda, to the farmhouse. The first incarnation of today's hotel was born as Mountain View House. The Dodges placed a small advertisement in the Boston Transcript, and in 1866 received their first registered guest. By 1852, a side track of the Atlantic and St. Lawrence Railroad had reached the nearby town of Littleton. Mr. Dodge would travel 13 miles by horse and cart to pick up his guests from the station and would bring them back to the inn. As the railroad drew nearer to Whitefield, investors became intrigued by the financial possibilities of the area's vast timber reserves. A businessman from Maine, Mr. R.B. Dunn, purchased many of the older mills before merging with other companies to form the White Mountain Lumber Company. Dunn built the largest and most technologically advanced mill complex in the region, using steam engines to power machinery. Tragically, the lower part of the mill was lost in a fire in 1856. Natural disasters such as flooding and fires were often the end of businesses in the area. In 1868, Olson and W.G. Brown formed a partnership called Brown Company. They purchased huge tracts of forested land and the charred remains of Mr. Dunn's lower mills, which they reopened with one steam-powered saw. The Browns knew that even with steam technology, they needed the railroad to reach Whitefield for their business to flourish. Within their first year of opening, the Browns convinced the White Mountain Railroad Company to send a line of railroad to the Whitefield mills via the town of Bethlehem. The Browns' proposition was probably aided by their gift to the railroad company of $4,000, the equivalent of $900,000 today. Local historian Kim Nielsen described the arrival of the railroad to Whitefield as a booster shot for the town. It no longer took months to export goods to cities such as New York, Boston, and Portland. Business now could be conducted in a matter of days. The railroad also opened up opportunities for the tourist industry. On October 5, 1870, the first passenger train arrived in Whitefield, bringing travelers all the way from Boston. For the Dodges, this meant more business, and in 1872, they tore down the original farmhouse and replaced it with a 3-story building with a small tower in the Gothic style that was popular at the time. The lobby is part of this extension and the oldest part of today's hotel. 7 years later, the Dodges extended again, adding an entirely new west wing. For each extension, the Dodges took out a mortgage, but the popularity of Mountain View House meant it was promptly paid off. Every time the Dodges managed to pay back their mortgage in full, they would burn the documents in celebration. By 1885, Alexander Graham Bell had patented the telephone. Thomas Edison had invented the incandescent light, and the Browns had the largest mill operation in New England. They had expanded their product line to include gutters, hardwood floors, moldings, and masts for sailing ships. Lumber workers' annual wage was $550, somewhere between $14,000 and $16,000 today. Many of the workers were French Canadians who crossed the border to find work. Often assigned to the harder jobs out in the woods, they made up about half of the town's population. In 1875, Whitefield's signature bandstand was erected. Whitefield's amateur band often provided audiences with promenade concerts and strawberry suppers. The band insisted, however, on fining people 25 cents, about $5 by today's standards, for any disturbances.